May 11th, 1996. 26,000 feet up Mount Everest. A man is lying face down in the snow. His eyes are frozen shut. His right arm is sticking straight up in the air, rigid. The glove gone. The hand exposed to 40 degrees below zero for so long that it has turned the color of dark wood. Ice has built up over his face in a solid crust. He is not moving and not visibly breathing. A doctor from the expedition reaches him, kneels down and checks for a pulse. He finds one, barely. The man is still alive, but only technically. He is in a hypothermic coma. Even if he woke up, he could not walk. Even if he could walk, he could not see. On Everest, in the middle of a blizzard at 26,000 feet, keeping him alive would cost the lives of everyone trying to save him. The doctor makes the only call he can make. He leaves the man in the snow and radios down to base camp that he is gone. Hours later, the team calls his wife in Dallas. They tell her Beck Weathers is dead. The next morning, Beck Weathers stands up. This is the story of Beck Weathers. Beck Weathers is a pathologist in Dallas, Texas, 49 years old, married to a woman named Peach, 2 kids, good career, nice house, the kind of life that looks successful from the outside and felt like nothing from the inside. For 20 years, Beck has been dealing with severe clinical depression, a darkness that follows him everywhere. He has tried work, family, medication, therapy. None of it makes the darkness go quiet. He describes it later as a black dog that will not leave him alone. Then he finds climbing. Beck climbs Denali. He climbs Aconcagua. He climbs every major peak he can afford to get to. The mountains are the only thing loud enough to drown out the noise in his head. When he is freezing, oxygen-starved, scared for his life at high altitude, the depression goes quiet. So he keeps going higher. Back home in Dallas, his marriage is falling apart. Peach has been watching her husband disappear on mountains for years. She raises their 2 children mostly alone. By 1996, she has told Beck she is thinking about leaving him. Beck hears her and then signs up for Mount Everest. He pays $65,000 for a spot on a commercial expedition led by Rob Hall, a New Zealand climber and guide. Hall is one of the best in the business. The company is called Adventure Consultants. Beck flies to Nepal in March of 1996. He trains at base camp. He acclimatizes to the altitude. Another member of the same expedition is a journalist named John Krakauer, who is writing an article for Outside Magazine about the commercial climbing industry on Everest. 18 months before the trip, Beck had eye surgery, radial keratotomy. At sea level, the surgery works. At high altitude, nobody fully understands yet what it does to the eyes. Beck has no idea that the higher he climbs, the worse his vision will get. On May 10, 1996, Beck Weathers leaves high camp and starts pushing for the summit of Mount Everest. The morning of May 10th starts well. The weather is clear. The climb is moving on schedule. By the time the team reaches about 27,000 feet at a point called the balcony, Beck realizes something is wrong with his eyes. The higher he climbs, the worse he can see. The radial keratotomy has reshaped his corneas for sea-level pressure. At altitude, in oxygen-thin air, the surgery works against him. Colors smear. Depth disappears. Beck can barely tell if what is in front of him is rock or sky. He tells Rob Hall. Hall thinks it over. The summit is still above them. Beck cannot climb higher like this, but sending him down alone could be worse because a blind man cannot descend Everest by himself. Hall makes a decision. Beck will wait on the balcony. Hall will summit with the other climbers, then come back down to get him. Beck promises to stay put. Hall promises to return. Hours pass. Beck waits in the snow. The sun hits his eyes and makes them worse. He does not move from the spot. Hall does not come back. Above him, the expedition is falling apart. A bottleneck at the Hillary step delays everyone. Climbers reach the summit later than they should have. The turnaround time, the point where climbers must head back down to survive, gets ignored. People push on anyway. The weather holds for the summit itself, but it does not hold for the descent. A storm moves in, a blizzard, hurricane-force wind, whiteout conditions, temperatures dropping below -40. Climbers on the descent cannot find the ropes, the route, or Camp 4. The blizzard has erased everything. Rob Hall is still near the summit with a client named Doug Hansen, who has collapsed. Hall will not leave him. Neither of them will make it down. Beck is on the balcony, alone, blind, freezing. Eventually, another guide comes by and takes Beck with a group trying to descend. The blizzard swallows them. The group gets lost in a whiteout and wanders in circles until people start dropping. Beck collapses in the snow with a Japanese climber named Yasuko Namba. A small team of climbers strong enough to keep moving leaves Beck and Yasuko behind, staggers back to Camp 4, and tells everyone where the bodies are. At dawn the next morning, Stuart Hutchison, a doctor from the expedition, goes out to check on them. He finds Yasuko dead in the snow. Beck is lying near her, face down, crusted in ice. Hutchison kneels next to him. Beck is breathing, but unresponsive. His right hand is exposed, black and hard as wood. His eyes are frozen open. Hutchison has spent a career in medicine. He has never seen a human being closer to death who was still technically alive. In normal conditions, a patient like this would be evacuated. On Everest, at 26,000 feet in a blizzard, evacuation is impossible. Carrying an unconscious man down would kill whoever tried. Hutchison radios Camp 4. They make the decision together. Beck cannot be saved. The team leaves him in the snow. Back at Camp 4, Guy Cotter, another guide, radios Base Camp. Base Camp radios the expedition office. The office calls Beck Weathers in Dallas. They tell her that her husband is dead on the mountain. Peach hangs up and starts crying. Beck has been left to die, the first time. Beck is face down in the snow at 26,000 feet. The blizzard is still going. His core temperature has dropped into the range where a human body begins to shut down organs to protect the brain. He has been unconscious for about 15 hours. By every medical measure, he should not wake up. He wakes up. Beck later described it as a hallucination. He saw his wife's face. He saw his two children's faces. And he understood in a way that was not quite a thought that if he did not stand up right now, he would never see any of them again. That was the moment he decided to move. He opens his eyes. They are frozen shut. The ice crust on his face has to crack before he can see anything. When he does, the first thing he sees is his right hand. It does not look like his hand anymore. It looks like a piece of dark frozen meat. He lifts it and brings it down on the ice. It makes a hollow wooden sound. There is no feeling in it at all. Beck understands something then. His body is dying in pieces and he does not have much time. He gets to his feet. He cannot see more than a few meters in any direction because of the storm and his damaged eyes. He does not know which way Camp 4 is. He picks a direction that feels downhill and starts walking. He stumbles through the snow for hours. He falls, gets back up, falls again. At one point, he walks directly over a cornice and only catches himself on the edge before he drops off the mountain entirely. He keeps moving because stopping means freezing again, and freezing again means this time he does not wake up. Then he sees shapes, tents, Camp 4. Beck staggers into camp looking like something the mountain has already killed. His face is encrusted in ice. His hands are rigid and black. His voice barely works. The climbers at Camp 4 have been told Beck is dead. They look at the figure walking out of the storm, and for a moment, nobody is sure if it is a man or a ghost. They get him into a tent. They try to warm him, but the consensus is the same as it was on the mountainside. Beck is too far gone. The frostbite is too deep. The hypothermia is too severe. He will not survive the night. The other survivors at Camp 4 are still trying to save themselves and each other. Beck is put in a tent on his own and left to die a second time. That night, another storm hits. Wind rips at the tents. The flap of Beck's tent is blown open, exposing him to the blizzard. He's half out of his sleeping bag, face exposed, hands exposed, body temperature dropping again. In the morning, a climber goes to Beck's tent to collect his personal effects for his family. They open the flap, expecting a corpse. Beck is still breathing. At this point, something shifts in the other climbers. A man who has come back from the dead twice cannot be left again. They get Beck out of the tent. They start helping him descend. Step by step, with climbers holding him on both sides, Beck makes his way down toward the lower camps. He is barely conscious. His face and hands are destroyed. But he is walking, and every step is a step no one thought he would ever take. Back in Dallas, Beck Weathers has just finished telling her children their father is dead. Then the phone rings again. Beck is alive. Beck is walking. Beck is coming home. And Peach, who had been planning to leave him, now has a choice to make. Peach Weathers hangs up from the second phone call and gets to work. Her husband is alive but stuck at Camp 1. Nobody thinks a helicopter can fly that high. The air is too thin, the altitude too extreme. No helicopter rescue has ever been attempted at that height on Everest. Peach does not care. She starts calling people. She calls Texas Senator Kay Bailey Hutchison. Hutchison calls Senate Minority Leader Tom Daschle. Daschle calls the State Department. The State Department calls the U.S. Embassy in Kathmandu. The embassy calls the Nepalese Army. A consular section chief named David Shenstead finds a pilot willing to try. Lieutenant Colonel Madan Khatri Chetri, a member of the warrior caste. When Shenstead asks him, he is standing on the first hole of the Royal Nepal Golf Club. Madan thinks for a moment and says, "I will do this thing. I will rescue the Beck." Madan strips his helicopter down to the bare minimum to reduce weight. He flies to about 22,000 feet. He lands in a spot where landing should not be possible. He evacuates an injured Taiwanese climber first, then comes back for Beck. At the time, it is the highest altitude helicopter rescue in the history of mountaineering. Beck survives, but the mountain takes its price. Doctors amputate his right arm below the elbow. They amputate all the fingers and the thumb on his left hand. They amputate the toes on his right foot. His nose is completely destroyed by frostbite and removed. Surgeons later reconstructed from skin grafts from his ear and his neck, grown on his forehead for months before being moved to the middle of his face. When his rescuers carried him off the mountain, Beck said to them, "They told me this trip was going to cost me an arm and a leg. I think I got a better bargain." 8 people died on Mount Everest that week. Rob Hall died near the summit with his client. Scott Fisher died on the descent. Yasuko Namba died in the snow next to Beck. Beck was supposed to be the 9th. Peach Weathers had been planning to leave her husband. After the rescue, she told him she was still going to. She stayed 1 more year to see if he could change. He changed. The man who had spent 20 years running from a darkness inside him came back from Everest with less of a body and more of a life. He got treatment. He stopped climbing. He put his marriage and his family first for the first time. Beck Weathers has said many times that Everest did not break him. Everest saved him. The mountain that should have killed him ended the depression that nearly did.